Hi, everybody. So I am going to be posting 3 lectures today. The first is about exporting imagery from SketchUp from your photo studio model or your garden workshop model and what imagery to export. And then compiling that imagery in Photoshop will be our second video. And then the third video will be creating a presentation style, just creating a presentation in InDesign. And that will be fairly simple. So we're just going to start using InDesign just to get you used to that program. So we're going to go from SketchUp to Photoshop to InDesign. Okay. So SketchUp, of course, is our modeling tool. Photoshop is our image editing tool, and InDesign is our like compiler or our presentation tool. Okay. All right, so I have 2 projects to show you, a garden workshop as well as a photo studio. This garden workshop was done by Bella. So this looks great. This is exactly where I wanted you guys to take this, which would be materializing. Boy, I can't talk today. Materializing our given garden workshop and then using those same materials and textures and creating your own sort of addition to this. And this is a great addition. We have the gable roof structure of the model that I provided, and then Bella added this really cool shed structure with PV panels and some like glassy walkways over to that structure. And then everything combined here sort of makes a nice courtyard type of space in the middle, and the courtyard in the middle has all kinds of furniture, pavers, things that were pulled from 3D Warehouse. She also added some nice furniture on the outside sort of boardwalk around this structure. Then, of course, added the topography and all the trees. So there's quite a bit here. So this is great. So Bella, great job. And we'll use this as our garden workshop model. And now I'm just going to show you the photo studio. So this one here is Lori's photo studio. So this is the original 40 by 40 that we did this time last year. Great little project. She changed it up quite a bit, but this is really the 40 by 40. And then this is what we added this semester, more photo studios. Everything is arranged in a really elegant way to create this sort of third courtyard space outside with this nice fence that she designed. So here is the front of the structure. Just get the way out of the trees there. Sneak up in here. Some nice courtyard areas outside as well. And this is sort of the entry onto this whole area. Now, I know a lot of you might have the same sort of outdoor area, this sort of plinth that everything sets on. And this is just one way to sort of get this merged in with the topography. But does it have to be that? No, it doesn't have to be that. It could live right on the land. So, for example, if I switch back to Bella's, like this project could live right on the hill. Now, you'd have to negotiate the land in such a way to get up to the entry and things like that, and on both sides. But you can do that later or however you want to do it. So this is fine. So I know I just showed you that technique, but it's a good way to do things to sort of get you to understand how your flat structure has to start living with a topography that's not flat. Okay, so in this video, what I want to do is show you one modeling technique, and then I want to show you how to export your imagery from this. And we can export as many bits of imagery that we want. So why am I doing it that way? So you could export an image just like this, like done. I'm going to show the client this exact image. Okay. I'm going to export this exact one and show them. That would be just fine. Otherwise, a better way to do it, in my humble opinion, is that we can take out bits of information from this model. So export, say, textures, then export line work, then export shadows, and then we could compile that image, those images into Photoshop into one image. That way we have control over each of those layers. Okay. If I just exported right now, everything's sort of glued together. The line works glued with the textures and the shadows, which aren't on right now, but you get what I'm saying. Everything's sort of stuck together. So let's do that. Before I do that, I want to just show you, and I've done one here, how to clean up ugly line work in models that you import, say, from 3D Warehouse. So, for example, see how I cleaned up these two? Now these two aren't cleaned yet. How do we do that? So I'm going to go into the model here, and I'm going to go into this pillow. I'm going to keep going into the groups until I get it, and then I'm going to select everything. And then I'm going to go over to my default tray and go to soften edges. Okay, there's one little checkbox here that says soften coplanar. I'm going to uncheck it, check it again. Look how everything sort of goes away. So everything within 20 degrees of each other. So two planes that are within 20 degrees that make an edge will become softened. You can mess with the degrees and say, okay, everything within 50 degrees and under is going to be softened. So that looks good. I'll do the same to this one. Grab everything. I'll uncheck it and check it again. You'll just have to sort of play with unchecking and checking and you'll get it. But that looks way better. Okay, so if I leave the imagery here, leave the model here. Get out here. There we go. So you can see how much cleaner those look. Where this, now watch if I zoom away, this becomes sort of like a black blob of lines. So it would be good to clean up any unnecessary line work that you have in your model. Okay, so let's pick an exterior shot that would be a nice presentation of this drawing, this model, this design. So I'm going to go and look through her saved scenes. This one's pretty good. I'm kind of, say, 10 feet or so up from this level. I would like to see a little more three-dimensional form of the structure. So something a little more like this. That's a little more telling to me, a little more interesting because I can see, oh, got a cat in here. This is a courtyard structure. The building surrounds this really cool courtyard shape. I can't really get that from this view. Okay, I'm going to let out the cat real quick. And we're back. So I can't really get that from this view. So let's see what else she's got here. I'm going to go to scene 2. Same critique on this scene. Scene 3. A little strange because as you can see, I'm kind of looking right at the ground. That doesn't really showcase my architecture. I would definitely want to have something at least that looks something more like that so I can get a really nice perspective of this structure, for example. Let's look at scene 4. I can tell this wants to be an interior shot, but again, it looks like I'm kind of floating on the ceiling. So I would want to be somewhere maybe, oh, that's already better right there. Look at that. The nice plants. Love these carts on this end, by the way. That looks pretty good right there. Let's go scene 5. Scene 5 is a pretty nice shot because it really shows me everything. And let's take a look at scene 6. Another pretty good shot. So I'm just going to adjust one of these and use that. So in the next model, I'll give you some tips on how to make a good interior shot. So I'm going to just do something about like this. Maybe I'll get that stair in there. Tilt it down a little. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now I'll just update this over scene 6 so I don't, so I can always get back to it. Now I'm going to turn on my shadows. Let's see where they are falling right now. Taking a while for this one. So there we go. Actually, that looks pretty good. I don't mind where those shadows are falling. Now, something to keep in mind when you're setting up your camera angle. think of this whole viewing window as sort of the page, right? You can see that my model is sort of centered within that page. Like I don't want to do something like, I'm going to turn off my shadows for now, but I don't want to do something like this. I don't want to do, definitely don't want to do something like this. Like, what am I looking at here? But the model, more importantly, is off the page. I want to get this thing, hey, client, I want to show you this amazing project that I created for you. I want to showcase it as well as I can, right in the middle there, just like that. So that was a scene I saved for view 6. Okay, so this looks good. So let's start exporting imagery from this. All right, first thing I want to export are textures. So what do I mean by that? What I want is just the color, the material. I don't want line work and I don't want shadows. So what I'm going to do is go to styles. Now, right now, if I go to my home page, here are the different styles that it looks like that Bella has played with. Let me just click on this little arrow over here and click Purge Unused. So right now we're in construction documentation style 1. That's a fine style to use. All right, I can always go back to select and go to default styles, pick a different one, or I can go to sketchy edges, pick something there. But let's just start with default styles. The one I like to use is shaded with textures, which doesn't look much different than construction document 1 that we were just in. So I'm just going to use shaded with textures. I'm going to go to edit. I'm going to turn off dashes and I'm going to turn off edges. Okay, look at that. So what we have here is just textures, no line work. I'm not seeing a hard edge between anything. The other thing you want to check out is it under shadows. I have them turned off, but there's this setting called use sun for shading. Watch when I turn it off. So it looks a little flatter. I'm going to turn it on again. This sort of says, hey, the sun's shining over here. Everything's in shade over here. So it doesn't treat like two surfaces the same. So it takes into account the sun information. So I want to keep that checked and turned on. So let's export this. I'm going to go File, Export 2D Graphic. I'll keep it as a JPEG and I'll call this Garden Workshop Textures. And I'll put that under, let's go Digital Architectural Rendering. And I'm going to make a new folder in here. And I'll call this Workshop Render Layers. Good name. I'm going to go in there. I have it set to a JPEG, Garden Workshop Textures. I'm going to go to Options and make sure that I uncheck Use View Size. And I'm just going to make this guy 3000 pixels across. Turn anti-aliasing on, crank this to better quality as much as possible, hit OK, and then hit Export. So it's thinking. All right, now I'm just going to go to that layer, or folder rather. Garden Workshop render layers. Here's the first image that we exported. Look at that, nice, high quality, very nice drawing. Everything looks good. I'll turn that off. Okay, let's do our next image. I'm going to go and switch my style. I'm going to go to select under styles. I'm going to go to select and I'm going to choose hidden line. This guy right here. Okay. Now I'm going to go to edit on this style. I'm going to edit this style. Now my edges are turned on, right? If I turn them off, you don't see anything. There is some weird textures happening here still in hidden line, which is a little bit strange to see, but I guarantee you that's because these were imported models from 3D Warehouse. We'll just ignore those for now. I'll turn edges on. I can also turn on profiles if I want, and you're going to get some darker lines around certain edges. So maybe I'll crank this. I'm going to put it at 5 once just to show you. There, you can see all that darker line work. This looks a little too crazy and intense. I mean, look at these people here. It's all spiky and stuff. I'll just turn those off for now. You can play with all these other things like extension, add some sort of detail, jitter. Yeah, you get a little jitter in there. You can kind of see it out here a little more. That's actually a kind of a elegant drawing there on its own, but let's just do edges for now just to show you what this does. Okay, now I'm going to go to File, Export, 2D Graphic, and I'll call this one Garden Workshop Lines. All my options are currently the same. Exactly what I set in the last setting. It's really important that this is set to 3000 or more. Okay, anything less than that, you're going to get a pixelated drawing. We do not want that. What's most important though is that your textures export and your line work export, they are the same width and height because they have to overlay over each other. Okay, so this is exactly the same, I'm not changing it. Okay, I'm going to export that. Okay, now I'm going to go to and show you that drawing. Look at that, nice, crisp, clean edges. Everything looks good. Here's my texture file. Now, if I flip to the next one, you can see they line right up on each other. So these are going to overlay real nice. Okay, so I'm going to close that. Now we have one more to export. I'm still in hidden line here. I'm going to keep it in this style, and I'm going to turn on shadows. Give it a second here. Let the shadows turn on. There they are. Now watch this. I'm going to turn off any line work I have on. I'm back up into styles. I'm under edit. I'm going to turn off dashes, which I really don't see any anyway. I'm going to turn off edges. Give it a second here. Yep, it's thinking. Now look how cool that looks. That's just shadows. No line work, no textures, nothing. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go File, Export, 2D Graphic. I'll call this Garden Workshop Shadows. Check my options. Everything's the same. Hit OK. Hit Export. This one might take a bit longer. Okay, that one's done. I'm going to turn off my shadows, turn my edges on again. Let's see. I want to open that file to show you. Okay, here's shadows. That looks really cool. So this is, again, just shadow work. Very nice drawing. Now, if I flip through these images, it's going to overlay real nicely with the line work and overlay real nicely with the textures. Textures, shadow, lines, lines, shadow, texture, texture, shadow, lines. Okay, you get the idea. So I am done exporting my imagery, at least to start the render for the exterior of this garden workshop. So now something to keep in mind. I could go into here. I could pick a different style. Let's do sketchy edges. I'm going to pick one of these. Okay, that looks insane. Let's pick a different one. Okay, how about this one? Brush strokes. That's still a little too. See if we can find something a little cleaner. That's kind of cool. Let's see if we can edit it. Level of detail. I'm going to tone it down a bit. Okay. This could be cool. I'm going to just export. Yeah, maybe this one as well. Okay. I'm in the same exact scene and everything. I'm just going to export this line drawing. So I'm going to go File, Export 2D Graphic, and I'll call this Garden Workshop Sketchy Lines. So I could overlay this information as well. And along with that other information, we can just see what it does. Worst case scenario, we don't use it. All right, I'm going to go back to, that is Clara. I'm going to go back to a hidden line just so I see everything. Okay, that looks good. Now what I'm going to do is sort of, we're ready to go to Photoshop from this model. Now I'm going to go to the, oops, I accidentally hit layout. I'm going to go to the photo studio here and I'm going to do an interior shot. So I did an exterior shot on the garden workshop. I'll do an interior shot on here and show you how to do that.